Good evening, YouTube. This is Tinka from Urban Homeschool Academy. I have this year a middle schooler and my second grader, and I just wanted to make a response and to Erin of I think Mahagony Homeschoolers on her video that she just made. I wanted to talk about looking up unfamiliar terms, and when it comes to that, I try to have my middle schooler use context clues and the etymology that we have learned so far. And then oftentimes we will make a list and go back to it later. For my second grader, we almost always we don't go past the word without me giving them, the basic meaning of the word, and then we look up the words at another time, also making a list. We also still use Wordly Wise. My 8th grader does, and I will continue to use that particular part of our curriculum all the way through 12th grade with her, and I find it to be very helpful. A lot of words in there come up in the reading level that she's in. And it's also really interesting the way the book is set up, because they also have a reading segment in each lesson that often is like a history lesson or a social studies lesson, so it gives us something to discuss, look up further, and use it toward those two topics. We are also using Cornell Notes. I started Cornell Notes. I learned them at about her age, and I used it all the way through college, and I find it to be very helpful, and I have not run into many people who also use it just in my college years. So the person who taught me that, and it stuck with me, and it's the easiest way for me to learn and study things and take notes. It's amazing, and so I have passed that on to my children. So yes, even with math terms, it is important, because I tell my daughter sometimes when we're given possibly standardized tests and they'll ask you to do X, Y, Z, you have to know exactly what that is that they're asking you to do. So that's why math terms and like the divisibility rules and stuff like that, I really make it a point that we take notes even in math. We are using Saxon's Algebra 1/2. Regarding that, since we are doing grades this year, I'm beginning her transcript at this time. It is really important computation, so I make her do it as neat as possible, and if she gets her work checked and we go back to make corrections, I a lot of the times have her work it out on the board and work it out very big, because she has some visual issues, and I also make her go very slow so that maybe she can catch a step that she missed or a computation error before I have to step in and make a correction. So that's how we do that. Besides that, we also pretty much stay on schedule with how Saxon has their lessons to what tests they're taking scheduled. We do that, although we are a few weeks behind, because I also use other worksheets when I want her to get more practice on a particular thing, and that might take a little bit longer, so that'll take us back a little bit. So that I don't have a problem with that, because we will work on this all the way through the summer if need be, but we tend to, when it comes to math, try to finish the book. I don't know if that's something that ever happened from what my daughter is telling me when she was in math and in school, if they ever finished the whole of books. So when they would get toward the end, that math wouldn't get done, and then they would start the next school year off basically reviewing everything that happened the year before, but not the stuff at the end. So we try to finish the whole books, and you find that that's when we get to some topics that are on the standardized test that they would normally not get to if you don't finish the book, like the box and whisker and all those plottings and stuff like that. So that's where we are with math. Science, by now, following the way our Pennsylvania curriculum is set up, we have done earth science before, we have done physical science before, we have done biology before. It's the only thing that we're doing, we're swinging back around and doing all those again, but we just increase the the content and the intensity, and do more experiments and projects, either physically or we find some way to go see it done at museum, Franklin Institute, or some other way, or video. I already touched on Cornell Notes. I'm following my notes here. Language arts and social studies. We are still using learning language arts through literature. I went all the way through that with my older daughter, so we will do that same thing with Camille, as we're very comfortable with that. And I switched around a whole lot of things with my first homeschool, and this was one of the ones that stuck. This and Saxon and the Wordly Wise are something that I will continue to use forever. I like how all those are set up. I might switcheroo a couple of other little things and add things, but those three things are staples at this house. But learning language arts through literature incorporates a lot of things besides literature. It also has grammar. It also has book studies on whole books, and then there's also excerpts from different books that oftentimes we have gone back and read the whole book of. So I really like learning language arts through literature, and it also does etymology. And social studies, I'm still pulling from more than one source, often combining it with history, so I think that pretty much is what a lot of homeschoolers do. Writing also is covered in learning language arts through literature, but we also use spectrum writing. I'm using a lot of spectrum. When I say that I'm using other resources to get extra exercises in the different subjects, a lot of times I use spectrum for that. I used to only pull worksheets, but I just find it easier to have the spectrum workbooks. That's just what works for me. It's, you know, paper and ink and all that good stuff. So writing is covered there, and we also do journaling to get more words in, to get her style together, to get her own writing voice in place, and also have her write current events as they're coming up, write about them, tell me what her feelings are about them, and I don't read them all the time, but we do discuss them. And that's how we get the extra writing in. And the rest of the subjects are just as I feel appropriate that we have the time to do them. So that's pretty much where we are. I have a second grader and I have an 8th grader this year, and this is the year that both of them are to be tested in Pennsylvania. So I'm not doing a lot of test prep, although I did get a test prep spectrum workbook for both of them, but I'm not even worried about that. Like I always said about when it comes to testing, the testing doesn't really measure, it does not really capture everything that they know, so I don't put a lot into it. I know if they were in school, especially in Pennsylvania, those tests really means dollars for that school, whether they get dollars to give these kids extra help in the school, which gives just more funding to the school altogether. Maybe they could fund more teachers or get more resources in, and that's not something that I'm really concerned with. They are on par with everything. I do get a chance to have them interact with other children in their age bracket, and from what I can tell, they are okay. Also, at the end of the year, you know, in Pennsylvania, we have an evaluator that goes over our work. Our evaluator has 20-something years experience in homeschooling, and I think one of her children is also homeschooling. So she has a lot of experience with homeschooling. I think she homeschooled maybe 5 kids. So I get a lot of information from her through the year. Even though she does my once-a-year evaluation, I also do call on her during the year. And that is pretty much where we are. I continue to get so much from my other YouTubers. I know I stopped making videos, but that's just how busy that I have been, because as you know, I had 3 homeschoolers, and they are all basically 5 grades apart. So it's very hard to straddle and figure out what everybody needs and what everybody should be doing sometimes. So that really had me busy, as well as all of my outside things that I do. So that is it, and thank you very much if you watched this video and appreciate it. This is Tinka from Urban Homeschool Academy.